Yeah, you read that title correctly. I did in fact break into my own house. Legally, of course. I think. Hello everybody and welcome to the Fall Asleep While I Play Minecraft series. My goal in this series is to go to space while talking to you in this soothing voice. Today I'm going to tell you a story about how I actually got locked out and had to break into my own house. I'm also going to tell you about a hangover I have and how I actually got 5% taken off of my pay today because I'm a total idiot. Now, if you're into these kind of videos where I talk gently to help you fall asleep, study, or relax, please consider subscribing. It all started in the morning when my mom said, "Come on, Jacob, let's walk the dogs." I said, "Okay, let's go then." So I got my clothes on and we went off on our way. Just as I shut the door, we were outside and I felt a breeze. Now for context, I am a very, very slight man, which is a polite way of saying I am a skinny prick. And so I get extremely cold extremely quickly, and therefore had to ask my mom for the key so I could run back inside and get a coat. In I went to get my coat. I put the keys on the table, ran upstairs to my room, got my coat, and ran back down. However, upon leaving the house, I did not in fact pick up the key, which does in fact mean that we were locked out. Now, we didn't realise this until after about a 30-minute quiet and gentle walk. Upon arriving home, my mom said, "Open the door then." And I said, "I thought you had the key." And so she looked at me in disappointment as we both realised we were stuck outside with 2 golden retrievers and no way in. I looked up and around, trying to find a way in, and noticed that the upstairs window was actually open. But just for context, this window is not a window that people are supposed to climb in through. In fact, usually only a child would be able to fit through a window of this size. But it was our only hope. For context, it was probably about... I can't even explain. Here's just a photo of it. It's blimming tiny. But yeah, I rang the neighbour's doorbell and I said, "Hello, would you kindly lend us a hand because we are locked out?" And the neighbour said, "Of course, let me get a ladder." He wandered to the back and I followed him. We picked up a ladder, which was, by the way, this humongous heavy 3-piece ladder. And we pulled it from these bars, so it was above us and we had to pull it over us. We were in this sort of tunnel between our houses. If you're from England, you'll know what I mean. We have terraced houses and there's like a gate that lets you through into the gardens. The ladder was like on the roof of that tunnel part. So we got the ladder and we put it in position for me to climb up. And I climbed up. And by the way, the day before I had bought some brand new clothes, which is what I was wearing today. Don't ask me why I decided to walk my dogs in new clothes, fancy clothes, but I tend to make terrible decisions, so whatever. I climbed the ladder and reached the window. Now, again, this window is tiny. I put my head through it and I was honestly thinking that I wouldn't be able to get my head out. Not to mention the ladder was leaning on a gutter, which meant if that plastic gutter broke, I would just flop forward and probably break my neck. I don't know. I would have broken something, or I would have just been a head stuck in a window with my legs dangling. It would not have been an enjoyable experience. But anyway, I couldn't quite get the angle right, so I went back down. The neighbour moved the ladder to the side, and I climbed back up again. This time, I turned around and we had an audience of neighbours. Just for context, I tend to bring this up a lot, but I am of the brown ethnicity, And it's important for the comedic element of this story because a brown man climbing into someone's house through a window is not a sight that really screams legitimate. Anywho, I actually put my head through, tilted my body sideways, and I was slowly squeezing through. I did pull a shoulder, and I was very uncomfortable. And just as I was about to make it, I realized there was in fact nothing for me to land on other than a hard floor. So I flopped forward, and my new trousers that I'd bought, they were loose, and they were being pulled by something on the window, which then also led to my underwear getting pulled. So I'm in fact now half naked with an audience of people staring at me. It's quite a embarrassing moment, to say the least, but I was a hero, even if my lower region was visible to my local community. I in fact got into that house, opened the door, and let my mom and the dogs in. I have my clothes on at this point, by the way. I did not run down the stairs with no pants on. Upon opening the door, we celebrated, and I went back to work. So I work as a video editor, and that's important because my boss is a very patient man, but if a deadline is not met, he is not a happy man. If you're watching this, boss, I'm sorry for all the pain and suffering that I've ever caused you. Now, I did not in fact meet that deadline that day, but to be fair, I was only 15 minutes late, and sometimes he's in a good mood and I get away with it, and sometimes he's in a bad mood and I get a spanking. I decided that after all that stress, I deserved a drink. Now this is where it went terribly wrong. I called my friends and we said we'd go to the pub. Now, if you're coming from my last video where I also had a hangover, you'll know that my friends aren't the greatest at dealing with large amounts of alcohol. Check out that video if you want to hear that story. It's quite funny. It involves a friend not being able to keep up with a family of Indian people, my family, drinking far too much. Anyway, back to this story. We are now at a pub, and British pubs are so fun. The vibe is great, the atmosphere is cozy, and the alcohol is brilliant. I was having whiskey. I'm quite a heavy drinker when I do drink, although I don't drink often. I usually do 1 or 2 weeks in a row. Sorry, that doesn't sound right. Once every week for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I won't drink for a few months. I just have phases of having fun and not drinking. But besides the point, I'm pretty pissed at this point in the story, and I decide, do you know what? Let's all go clubbing. So we all head off to the clubs, and I emotionally manipulate my one friend who was not expecting to be consuming drinks to join us on this adventure. He was rather unkeen, but after bringing him back to my house with all my other friends, telling his female that, you know, he's boring and he needs to come along, doing the usual stuff that anybody who doesn't want to go out would hate, I eventually convinced him and we all set off. Upon arriving at the club, we entered and we started buying drinks. Now, I love to dance at the club. I don't care about hooking up. That's not my thing. I'm not into one-night stands and things like that. I just like to have a good time with the music and so on. My friend, however, This is a different friend now. He's out for women. He wants to get himself a lady. And so he is actively sniffing his way around. Unfortunately, we did have a lot of pizza before attending the club. That's what we were doing at my house, which led him to have a stomach flare-up. I had to lend him some Gaviscon, so while trying to find himself a woman, he is also fighting, ensuring that his stomach does not release the food and drink that he has been consuming via his mouth. A girl then says, "Would you like to dance?" And he says yes. He goes over and starts dancing. Nothing comes of this. Literally nothing. He doesn't even get a look after that. So he turns back around and returns to us. I did feel bad for him. Turns out they both had boyfriends, so I'm not sure why they were asking him to dance with them. Maybe they were just being friendly. That's the thing nowadays, you can be friendly. Now, I actually ended up really aggravating my friend who didn't want to be there. Not to mention that I'd already emotionally manipulated him to come by using his female and telling her that he is boring, to which then she started saying he's boring. So partly my fault. Probably shouldn't have done that, but it was all for giggles, and I'm sure she doesn't actually think he's boring. I had been in town the day before with another friend. This is a third friend now. I should probably start giving these people names. Now, what we were doing was my friend thought it would be funny to nudge me into people just as we were walking past them. You know, just a harmless nudge of, "Whoops, sorry mate, didn't mean to walk into you there." And he was doing it pretty much all day. And I knocked into many people and apologized to many people. But this is the level of maturity that a 21-year-old seems to endeavor himself in. And I wanted revenge. Now, I'm really drunk at this point, and the friend who is not wanting to be there has a crowd of women behind him dancing, and they're doing the song that goes, "Move to the left, move to the right, take it back now, yo." God, that was awful. And they were all touching their knees. I don't know what part of the song that was. Now, because I'm so drunk, I forget who I'm getting revenge on and nudge the friend who just so happens to have the girls dancing behind him. And he basically nearly trips onto them. Whoops. And just to clarify, this is in fact the friend that does not want to be there. He is dreading it, staring at a bunch of drunk people dancing and partying while completely sober, ready for bed. And it's all because of me. All because of me. So I did in fact do this. And he caught himself, which I knew he would, to be honest, because he's a sober person. But he was very angry about this, and he started pushing me. And I did feel bad. I apologized to him many times. He was ready to pretty much punch me in the face. That night continued on, and he'd eventually called it silly and forgave me. He's a good friend. And to be fair to him, in this scenario, it was misdirected and I was completely in the wrong. I return home, we all return home, and I head to sleep. The next morning comes. I am now hungover. I have deadlines due for my boss, which I have enough time for, so I crack on. I'm trying as best I can to meet the deadline, and you know, I started rendering my edit about 30 minutes before it was due, so it was all good. However, my computer likes to play a game called Let's Ruin Your Life and Make You Fired. It failed the render, and I had to redo it. Luckily, I had it up 10 minutes after, and he didn't really care, because, you know, it's just predictable at this point. It's just what I'm like. Note to employers, don't ever hire me. I continued on, because I had one more deadline due for him, a separate video. and it was supposed to be uploaded at 6 p.m. So in my head I'm thinking, okay, I'll get that up on the channel at 6 p.m. So I crack on, and he messages me saying, Jxcob, I need the video soon. It's going to take time to process on YouTube. It needs to be checked and such. And so I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to do this any earlier than 6 p.m. So I work as fast as I can, start rendering, start uploading, and I get it up for 5:57. The processing and checking finishes at 6:04. So he decides he's going to post it at 6:30 p.m. I made a joke, and I said, it was YouTube's fault. I met the deadline, YouTube didn't meet the deadline. And that did in fact lead me to lose 5% of my earnings on my next invoice. Oh dear Jxcob. And that is the story of how well, it's more like 3 separate stories. Me getting hangover, me annoying a friend, and then me missing my deadlines. So, not a great day, but worth telling a story about. Oh wait, and of course me getting locked out and my trousers falling down, which I assume is the highlight of the video. Anyways, for the rest, I'm just going to make my way back to that base and fill up my rocket ship. So in next video, we can focus on getting our spacesuit. And then once we've got our spacesuit, we can head to the moon. We're actually getting quite close. If you're enjoying these stories, by the way, please consider subscribing. Definitely subscribe, because you know, a lot of you are sticking around already, and it's been really great talking to you in the comments. And I want to find ways to integrate the community a bit more. We'll have a play around, come up with some ideas on how we can work together on making these sleepy videos. Now, fuel buckets. Oil buckets. Okay, I assume I need a fuel refinery. So let me... Oh, I might be low on iron. It should be okay. Let's just give it a go. Craft ourselves 2 buckets and a furnace. Okay, and... I need 2 more steel thingies. How do I even craft those? I've forgotten. I think steel plates. Yeah, you can do it with ingots, right? How do you make a steel ingot? No, this is the Mekanism crafting recipes. I need the add Astra mod. So if I just go ahead and put the coal and iron in here. Oh, I'm low on iron. Very low. I need to go mining next video. Leave a comment, by the way, of something. Sorry, I'm on hangover brain still. Right, we're nearly good to go. Pop the fuel refinery down, powering up. And I assume I just plonk the bucket. Ah, there you go, look. There's the fuel. The fuel's red. It's usually yellow in mods. I'm really just out of touch with Minecraft, aren't I? Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Any second, there we go. Okay, let's fuel her up. I think it's 3, right? I might be wrong. Yeah, it's 3. Perfect. Okay then. Let's get to the other 3, because we will need to get back from the moon. Exploring the moon is going to be so fun, by the way. I can't wait. Oh, look at that. I wonder what those slots are for. Interesting. spacesuit. Right, this should allow us to breathe in space, I think. Do we need an oxygen thingy? Anything? Is there a slot that I put stuff in? No, I don't think so. Okay. Anyways, that's what we will do in the next video. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Again, I know it's a shorter one. When I'm hungover, I don't really have the mental capacity to do more than 20 minutes, but I'm keeping consistent because I'm determined to build an audience of sleepyheads like me. So, please like, subscribe and comment, and I'll see you around.